y'all like to share?
I have no idea how we're going to finish this project.
Oh, I got an idea. We talk like this, just like characters in Huckleberry Finn, like Huckleberry, Jim, Tom Sawyer, and then, floating down the river and such. We wear straw hats and overalls, and we go barefooted.
Wrong. Flipping. Book.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
So, how are we going to fix this?
Guys, I got this. Don't worry, we're saved.
Thank you, Nicole.
Firewatch and our project, Frankenstein, they both start with F.
Yeah, and?
It's connections, guys. Connections.
What's Firewatch?
Firewatch is this video game where this guy goes out into the wilderness all on his own to escape from his problems.
But how does Frankenstein relate to Firewatch? Still kind of confused here.
For those of us who haven't finished the book, Frankenstein is the story of an ambitious young scientist who pushes the bounds of nature. He ventures away from his home and past the known realms of science by reanimating a dead corpse. Frankenstein runs from his creation. In fact, he's abhorred by the abomination that he's created. Quote Frankenstein, "Good God," page 26, paragraph 2. After being brought back to good health by his good friend Serval, Frankenstein hears of his youngest brother's death, which causes him to return home. Whilst procrastinating the visit, he runs across the visage of his once dead demon, reaching the conclusion that the abomination has killed his youngest brother. Hurt and angered by this atrocity, Frankenstein vows vengeance upon his creature. But before he can exact this vengeance, his monster corners him in the mountains of Chamonix. Adam relates his testimony of excommunication and adversity to his creator. He demands the creation of a wife. Frank reluctantly agrees in order to save the surviving members of his family. As Frank's internal battle rages on, he decides against making his monster a mate and throws Adam's bride-to-be into the once still waters of the lake. In a rage, Adam confronts Frank and threatens to end his day of matrimony and bloodshed. But despite this warning, Frank goes ahead with the marriage, but not before the death of Serval by the hands of the monster. On the first night, as a married couple, Frank searches the house, only to be drawn by the scream of another death, this time of his beloved Elizabeth. Her untimely death crushes the last will of Frankenstein's father, and he too perishes. Frank is then pushed on by what he is convinced are benevolent supernatural forces in pursuit of Adam, the monster. Meanwhile, Adam taunts his creator, luring him ever northward to the fringes of society. Frankenstein slowly catches up to his creation over the Arctic waters, but is eventually marooned on a floating chunk of ice. Eventually, Frankenstein makes his way to Walton's vessel and is rescued. The story has now gone full circle. Frankenstein perishes after learning that the vessel is bound for England, and that its path will render him unable to exact his revenge upon the monster. Adam steals aboard the ship to mourn the loss of his creator, the one being on Earth that could really understand his isolation. Realizing the havoc wrought upon the innocent by his own actions, out of little more motive than revenge, Frankenstein's monster vows to take his own life deep within the Arctic Circle. Before asserting that he was never the sole villain or the sole cause of all of the sorrow, the monster jumps into the ocean, never to be seen again.
What is Firewatch, and why does it matter? Wait, why does it matter?
Corey, just read the script. You ain't gotta be so extra.
Okay. Henry, the protagonist of Firewatch, takes a job as a fire lookout in the Shoshone National Forest during the summer of 1989. Now, the reason he does this is to escape from the reality of his wife's early onset dementia. He wants to use his summer of isolation to write his own literary work, but instead he becomes preoccupied with the companionship of his supervisor, Delilah. After belligerently confronting two inebriated teenagers at risk of causing a forest fire, both of the teenagers disappear. Delilah conceals Henry's involvement in the incident as well as her own, yet he does not tell him. The disappearance worries the two, but their work occupies them for the time being. That is, until Henry runs upon a transcript of all of their radio dialogue, including the part where Delilah told Henry to take care of the teenagers. Eventually, he's knocked out by an unknown assailant, and the dialogue is taken. The conspiracy deepens, culminating in the discovery of a secluded observation base, or what they think is a secluded observation base. Their observers ramp up the game of cat and mouse by lighting a fire in an attempt to frame Henry for arson. Eventually, the real antagonist is revealed to be an army vet with PTSD named Ned. Now, Ned went into isolation after causing the death of his son Brian when he was working as a Firewatch lookout, just as Henry is now. Brian, Ned's son, was a promising pupil, but he was separated from society, and he was killed indirectly through the actions of his father after years and years of abuse.
That was great.
Yeah, but it still doesn't sound anything like Frankenstein.
I found a symbol that you might like.
Oh, what symbol?
Glasses.
Glasses.
Yeah, they enable people to see.
And none of our characters need help seeing?
So you think. Victor Frankenstein creates this monster. It's hideous, disgusting, grotesque monster, but this monster only wants one thing in life, to be loved.
Yeah, I guess Frankenstein does kind of freak out when he first sees the monster.
Yeah, and this casts him out to society, a society in which villagers and cottagers live. Now these villagers and cottagers attack him, only seeing his ugly appearance.
Yeah, I guess if none of the cottagers had acted so awfully to him, and if Frankenstein hadn't acted so poorly to his monster,
no one would die and there would be no story. No amazing Mary Shelley story. But this also ties into Firewatch. Now, Delilah lies about the fact that Henry was actually there when the teenagers were missing. Henry lies about his initial intentions of being there when his wife actually has dementia. And Ned covers his tracks, pretending to be a malicious government agency. So yeah, glasses are pretty. So one symbol that Frankenstein and Firewatch both have in common are book jackets, believe it or not. Book jackets for a paperback book and a digital video game. Yep. So in order to demonstrate this, I'd like all of you sitting at your tables to take a look at the other person sitting at your tables real quick. Yep, go ahead. Now turn away from them. Yep, I really mean turn away from them. Okay, now what we're going to need are some books and 2 pieces of paper per table. So go ahead and pause me right about now. In fact, you know what? I'll make a funny face and you can pause me on that. Now that we've passed out the pieces of paper, I want 1 person per table to grab their books. Yep, grab it. Okay, now write down the title of your book on that piece of paper, and go ahead and take a look on either the back of the book or like right inside the cover, and find the summary, and write down like 1 sentence about what the book means. Go ahead and pause me again until everyone's all done with that. Okay, now that we've done that, I want you to take your piece of paper and keep it with you. Now take the book and slide it to the other person. Now that the other person has the book, I want you to ignore the cover and take a look on the inside somewhere. Now read a little bit on the page, and then when you're done with that, flip to the cover page, which should be not on the cover, and go ahead and write down the title of the book based on the cover page, and maybe write down a summary if you know what's going on.
Now go ahead and pause me again until they're done with that. Okay, now show each other what you wrote. Are they the same thing? They shouldn't be. If they're not, we failed, I guess. I don't know.
It's worth a shot.
But this speaks to all of the characters in Frankenstein and Firewatch, or at least all of the major characters. They've all got something to hide.